I will be showing you my supplementary one for experiment 4. In our first part, we can see include and initialization. Its purpose is include the library for our LCD, and the initialization is to set up the pins and delay for our codes. On the second part, in this void setup, we can see the pin modes and the LCD begin. The pin mode's purpose is to set up if whether the switch is an input or an output. LCD begin's purpose is to set up the columns and rows of the LCD. And for the void loop, digital read is to set the value from a specified digital pin either high or low. In our first statement, if button state 1 is high and button state 2 is low, the LCD will show switch 1 is clicked. The LCD cursor is to set the location of the text 0, 0, and 0, 1. The second else if statement is that if button state 2 is high and button state 1 is low, the LCD will show switch 2 is clicked. And if both buttons are high, the LCD will show switch 1 and 2 is clicked. And in the fourth statement, if the LED and in the fourth statement, if the button is high, if the both button is low, then the LCD will display ready to be clicked. You can see that from supplementary 1, the code is working, and if the else if statement that if both switch 1 and switch 2 are low, the display will be ready to be clicked. And if one switch is to be high, switch 1 is clicked. And if switch 2 is clicked, it will display switch 2 is clicked. And if we both press 1 and 2, the display would be switch 1 and 2 is clicked. I will be now showing you supplementary 2 for experiment 4. The first part is for initializing the pins and delays of the code, and also for including the library of the LCD. In the void setup, we can see the LCD begin, which sets the columns and rows of the LCD serial print, which we can control the speed of the baud rate, and the pin modes that indicates the LEDs are outputs. Here we can see that serial print. This indicates that it will show on the LCD entered loops and the number of loops. The following codes allows us to input in the serial monitor. For first statement is it indicates how many times will the LED will loop. If it satisfies the number that we indicated in the serial monitor, then the loop will stop. This circuit is for supplementary 2. If we input in the serial monitor a number just like, for example, 5, the loop here in the LED will loop 5 times. I will now be showing you supplementary 3 from experiment 4. First, we initialize the pins and delay. We also should use include so that we can include the library of our LCD. In our void setup, we can see the LCD begin, which sets the columns and rows of our LCD. Serial begin, which we can control the baud rate, and also the pin modes, which indicate whether it is an input or an output. We will also use void function so that we can call this digital right in our statements, so that we do not repeat ourselves in the following statements. In our first if statement, it is stated that when A is greater than 7, it will display on the LED is invalid and in the serial monitor unavailable. And in our else statement, if it is below 7, it will count because of the if and else if statement that will compare the value of the equivalent BCD. If it is equals to 1, it will compare to 1, equals 1, it will compare to 1, and will light LED 1. And if it is equals to 2, it will light LED 2. Note that we called the void function off, so that all the other LED 1 and 3 would be low. And if it is equals 3, it will compare, and the BCD equivalent of it is L1 and L2 is high. And if it is equals 4, LED will light up. And if it is equals 5, LED 1 and LED 3 will light up, and so on and so forth. For supplementary 3, if we input in the serial monitor 6, the LCD will count to 6, and while the LED will show the equivalent BCD. And if we had input greater than 7, just like 8, the serial monitor will print 8 is unavailable, and while in the LCD it will print 8 is invalid. I will now be showing you supplementary 4 for experiment 4. The first part contains the initialization of the pins and delay. It also contains include, which include the library of the LCD. On the second part, void setup, we have LCD print, which displays the word count on the LCD, and various spin mode to indicate if it is an input or output. In the void loop, the first statement is for one in which if it is high, it will increment on how many times you press the button. And for the else statement, it is for button 2 in which it is stated that the LED will execute a running light loop based on how many times you have pressed button 1. The for loops will just increment and decrement the LED to show the running light. And for supplementary for, if I press switch 1, it will increment for how many times you have pressed it. And if I press switch 2, it will loop the LED running lights for 4 times.